Hey, Seekers, and welcome back to the Hanged Woman podcast. I'm your host, Julienne Irons, and this month's theme is a perspective shift on money, and we're exploring it from every angle: science, practical, and energetic. So last week we kicked things off with the practical side of money alongside financial expert and coach Carrie Luna Sky. Coming up, we're going to dive into the energetic with not one but three incredible guests. To kick things off is money confidence coach Janelle Pierre, who specializes in helping people build real financial confidence. And guys, it is not the kind of financial confidence that requires spreadsheets or good credit, because this kind of confidence actually starts from within. But this week, we're stepping into the science. Now, you've probably heard phrases like money is just energy or manifest your wealth, but behind those ideas is something very real: your brain. So much of what we believe about money lives deep in the subconscious, shaped by early experiences with family, culture, and for many of us, financial hardship. So how do we shift something that's been living in our bodies for decades? That's exactly what we're exploring with this week's guest, Joetta Maria Johnson, also known as the Priestess of Finance, which is completely in alignment with Three of Cups. I mean, we couldn't get a more perfect guest than her. Joetta is a hypnotist and money healing coach, and she helps people uncover the subconscious patterns running the show behind the scenes. In today's episode, Joetta is going to help us explore how financial trauma impacts the brain, why we often repeat self-sabotaging patterns, and how hypnosis can help us rewire our thinking around money and abundance. And y'all, I am so excited because she's also guiding us through a powerful hypnosis for money healing, which, of course, we've added as a standalone bonus episode, so you can return to it anytime you need. Seekers, it's time to understand the science behind your money story and learn how to change it. This is the Hanged Woman podcast, where perspective is power. Let's get into it. Hey fellow seekers, I'm taking a quick pause from the show to share something really close to my heart, and honestly, the only reason you're even listening to this podcast right now. It's Three of Cups. My sisters and I created Three of Cups, an Iron Sisters mission of love, as a space for healing, beauty, growth, and community, because we believe life is meant to be full, rich, and abundant in every way. We offer all kinds of ways to support you, like energy healing, heart-centered art, plant-based medicinals, even marketing that will help enhance your brand's presence in the world. Because wherever you are in your journey, we want to help you feel seen, supported, and empowered. So if you're looking for something to help fill your cup in whatever way you need, come join us. Follow us on Instagram at Three of Cups Healing, or explore all of our offerings at threeofcupshealing.com. Because Seeker, your cup deserves to be full. And now, back to the episode. Joetta, welcome to the show!
Thank you so much. Awesome to be here.
So let's just start with your personal journey of money. How did you get started here?
Yeah, definitely. It was quite a journey. And I think it really obviously always starts in our family of origin. And growing up in an environment, like both of my parents came from pretty impoverished families. My mom came from, like, her parents were from Mexico, immigrant workers, and they came from a mode of like a lot of kids, a lot of just like surviving. My father similarly also grew up in just very, very difficult financial circumstances. And so when I was being raised, we were primarily in a state of survival. And so when I launched out on my own and I left home when I was 16 years old, I was just like out in the world, kind of like having to figure everything out on my own. And so I developed a lot of pretty difficult money patterns as I was going through that particular phase. And so the more I started to earn money, I didn't really know how to manage it. And I was more in a place of survival. Like, I just needed money to feel like I was surviving. And so any amount of money was just like this feeling of relief. But I didn't really know how to manage it. And so as I was going to college, and deciding I was going to become an accountant and work in the world of money and finance, I was learning a ton about accounting and money and finance and budgeting and auditing and looking at financial statements of companies, but I didn't know anything about personal finance. And really that journey started with getting school loans. And so at that time I was getting school loans partly to feel like I was just more resourced, and part of it was to pay for school. And so then, as I began to work out in the world with money, I still noticed my personal life, my personal financial life was a mess. I was overspending, I was getting into debt, and I was still operating from this place of like fear and worry and survival, like pure survival mode. But what ended up happening is I started to accumulate more and more debt. And I knew I was out of control. I knew that this was happening, but it was so difficult to grasp because I had learned all like the practical knowledge. I learned all the nuts and bolts around money, but yet somehow I was not able to apply that to my personal life. And I called my bankruptcy like the call to action in the hero's journey. The call to action is like change has to happen. And so that bankruptcy was like change absolutely has to happen. I had a lot of pain around my financial circumstances, especially given who I was in the world and how I was working in the world and the level of leadership I was holding in the world around money. And so that was my catalyst. That was my wake up call.
Can you help us understand what happens in the brain or nervous system when we experience financial trauma or anxiety?
One of the best ways to understand it, it's like the brain is connected to the nervous system, right? And so the nervous system and the way that it processes information when we have financial traumas and we didn't process those traumas, it basically lands in the nervous system. And the nervous system, like it's called the nervous system ladder. And at the bottom of the nervous system is like flight, fight, freeze, or fawn, 4Fs. So at the very, very bottom is the dorsal vagal, it's called, and that is basically full shutdown mode. Freeze, shut down. And so when a person has a really like a big trauma with a capital T, like the nervous system goes into like that full freeze shutdown and doesn't want to do anything. Right. And so that could be like, I feel trapped. I'm collapsed. I can't do anything. I can't take any action. So we're kind of at the bottom of the nervous system. One rung up from there is the sympathetic response system, when that is more like run or fight, right? And so we can get ourselves like higher and higher on the nervous system ladder, but we might go into like, well, I'm not frozen anymore, but I want to like punch somebody, like those resentments I was talking about. That those resentments are going to live in this like, I'm going to fight or I'm going to run. Right? And so as we move ourselves up the nervous system ladder, we get to ventral vagal at the top of the nervous system where we're resourced. We feel safe, we feel calm, we feel secure. And so part of what hypnosis does is it moves a person up the nervous system ladder so they can get into a more resource state. From that place, they can see things differently. Their behaviors are different. They can take action. They're just resourced and feel safe. At the bottom, when a person is completely at the bottom, we need strategies and tools in order to be able to move ourselves up the ladder. That could be as simple as like going outside in nature. It could be getting into cold water. It could be, well, cold water is a little bit tough. Like there's different methodologies. Like if you're really in a frozen state, it can knock you out of a frozen state. But if you're in fight or flight, cold water is not the best thing for that because you're already in like, oh my God, nervous system activation. But when you're trying to get out of freeze or shut down, there are things that you can do, like just jumping on a trampoline can move you out of like freeze. So it depends upon where your nervous system is in its response and giving the nervous system what it needs to gradually move it up the ladder to get to a more resource place. Then we can get help, we can take action, we can listen to hypnosis. Like there's all kinds of things we can do when we're resourced.
Wow, that's so fascinating. So, can we talk about money shadow? Can you explain what that is and how do we face it? Like, how do we begin to see that shadow side of us when it comes to money?
Yeah, definitely. So Carl Jung, he coined the term shadow. So shadow, the way I've heard it described is like a backpack we're carrying around with us that we can't actually see because it's on our back. And so this is our shadow in the subconscious mind, right? Like it's very difficult to just look at the subconscious mind from our own perspective. It's like trying to look at the eye without a mirror. It's in the recesses of our mind, but yet it's operating and it's influencing like 90 to 95% of our decisions. And so when it comes to money, when we haven't done work on ourselves around our money shadow, the things that are hiding in the shadow of our awareness that we cannot see how much it's influencing our decisions and our actions. So if 90 to 95% of our decisions and actions with money are influenced by what is in the shadow,
Right.
it's just like now sometimes that shadow we were programmed with healthy money behaviors, right? Some people in some ways were programmed with healthy money behaviors, and that can also live in the shadow and just, create a lot of success and wealth in the world. But when you're coming from a survival kind of mindset and influences, that's what's operating in the background, influencing all of our decisions, like 90 to 95% of them. Even if we are become conscious of these patterns, it doesn't mean that becoming conscious of them are necessarily going to change them, right? But it's that the process of becoming aware of what is going on in the shadow of our subconscious mind that begins to help us start to get on a path with transforming the beliefs and the patterns that live in the shadow.
And how do we start to do that, though? How do we start to understand what's in our shadow? How do we bring that to the forefront?
It's a fantastic question. The easiest way to understand what's in our shadow is to look at our financial circumstances. Because our circumstances are a reflection of how we're operating with money. It's like the results that we're getting in our life with money, if they don't match what it is that we want, we know that that shadow is kind of operating and doing its own thing based upon what it believes. So the way we begin is we start to look at our financial circumstances firstly, like me with the debt that I had and the compulsive spending. I had to actually start to be with that and work through initially the shame and the guilt. Oh, I'm an accountant in the world, and yet I have this debt and I filed bankruptcy, and dealing with like the feelings of there must be something wrong with me because I have this going on in my life, and beginning to process the guilt and the shame is the first start. Really, the first piece is looking at the circumstances, right? Like, these are the circumstances. I have this amount of debt, or I never have any savings, or I don't seem to earn what I think my potential is. We start to look at these patterns, and it's like, oh, that's the shadow right there in the circumstances. Then we start to to be able to process this shame and guilt around those circumstances so we actually can start to do something about these patterns and behaviors and beliefs we're operating from. Once we can start to do that, and this is a big piece of why I started to bring hypnosis into my practice, is because hypnosis begins to, one, understand where these beliefs, patterns, and behaviors are coming from and why it thinks that is best for us. The subconscious mind always believes what it's doing is best for us, but it's stuck in an old mode, like an old operating system on a computer, right? At some point, it's not going to work anymore because everything is advancing. And so the world around us with money is advancing all the time. And yet we're operating from an old operating system. And so hypnosis begins to kind of understand the old operating system and infuse or upgrade our operating system to be healthy behaviors, healthy beliefs, healthy approaches and patterns with money that allow us to actually like do something different, because the subconscious mind is stronger than our willpower. So we could try all we want to do things differently from a conscious mindset, but it can be like pushing a boulder up a mountain because we're working against the subconscious mind.
Can we talk about like the shame and the guilt? Because that's something that's in my consciousness when it comes to money on a daily basis.
Yeah, part of it is like how the mind works. So part of how the mind works is through a lens of comparison, right? So the lens of comparison, the mind is constantly comparing like me against you, me against that person I see on social media, me against that person who earns $1 billion a year, right? Like our mind is just compare, 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 compare. And how are we doing compared to these like standards we see out there in the world? Now, some of those standards have come from our parents and kind of down the family lineage, because beliefs get passed down in the family lineage. So if you imagine like you grow up, like let's say my grandparents growing up like in Mexico, they received certain ideas and beliefs like life is hard, making money is really difficult. You have to work like all day and all night just to have enough to survive. Well, these beliefs get passed down to us. So that combined with this comparison mind, and it's just a minefield for guilt and shame, right? Plus the messages that we receive when we are small from the world, from religion, from our parents, from those around us that are close to us. We're like a sponge from 0 to 8 years old. So we're soaking up all of this data and then we're applying stories to it. Oh, you spent too much money. You should be ashamed of yourself. Or that person's making $1 million or $1 billion and you're not, you should be ashamed of yourself. So we have all these internalized messages. And this is really why I love hypnosis so much, because it takes you can unravel these messages by doing journaling, but hypnosis is so effective at like getting in there and having the person identify what are these messages? What are the feelings? And the feelings are like a arrow pointing to a belief. And it's the feelings that are valuable, even if we do feel shame, which is at, the bottom of the emotional kind of ladder. Is shame is at the very bottom, the most difficult emotion to feel. Guilt is right up from there. And so when we can like identify like, oh, I feel shame, instead of like bypassing it and all the multitude of ways that we have to bypass our emotions, like eating or drinking or anything under the sun, spending money, getting into debt, right? Some say that debt is a reflection of how much shame and guilt we have in our own like relationship with money. It's just a reflection. But when we can see like, oh, this feeling is a pointer to a belief system. Oh, then I can go into that belief system and begin to unravel the belief system, whether it be through journaling or therapy or hypnosis or financial coaching. Like you're able to go into that baby and see, like, what is it telling me? What is the story this emotion that's pointing to a belief is telling me? That's where the gold is. So it's almost like by being able to be with the discomfort of the emotions, it will send you directly to the heart of where the beliefs are inside of the shadow of our psychology.
So the money trauma or the generational trauma with finances that is passed down from us, from our ancestors, that then becomes a part of our shadow, along with all the other stuff that we see out in the world in this present moment, right?
100%. Because beliefs, they evolve very slowly, right? When they're passed down from generation to generation, and the generations are not questioning the beliefs, right? There, because we're in a confirmation bias most of the time with the beliefs, like, oh, I have this belief, and see, there it is in the world. See, it's true. I have to work really hard for money. See, it's true. Those people have to work really hard for the money. And so we're looking for that confirmation and like, yep, my belief is true. And then we don't do anything about it.
Right. I relate to that so much. I grew up, my mother is Jamaican, my family's Jamaican, and so there's always been this concept that Jamaicans have to have a million jobs. Like we have to have so many jobs in order to like just survive, right? That is something that I am really trying to release. I have to work, 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 and I can't slow down. And even though I work, 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 I still don't have enough to take care of myself. I'm still in survival mode. And so for me, what I'm seeing is that through something like hypnosis, I could go into my subconscious mind and release that. So I'm no longer functioning with that same set of beliefs.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, one good question, like I teach a class called Earning Power. And so when I'm teaching that class, we go through this whole belief section. And I have a process for it in addition to hypnosis. And so one of the things, once you can identify the belief or at least the thought pattern of what it's telling you, you begin to ask these questions, and they come from Katie Byron, or Byron Katie actually. And so one is like, is this 100% true all of the time for all people? And you're like, I guess not for all people 100% of the time. And it's like, well, is it just true for me? And so you start to ask these questions that begin to unravel the validity of the belief. Well, if it's not true for that person, why is it true for me? Right? And then you start looking at your own circumstances, like, is it true for me 100% of the time or just some of the time? So you begin to question it as opposed to just affirming that it's true and it's real. And then it begins to kind of start to like almost become like I call it like a wobble. Like, wait a minute, that belief was so firm before, but now it's like starting to wobble. Like it's maybe not so rooted and real as we think it is.
I feel like I'm in that wobble right now. So I'm in the entertainment industry and it is so slow, but it's slow for everyone. A lot of people are struggling. And so I realized that I kept saying to myself when I was having money issues or something that everyone is struggling right now. So of course I'm struggling too. And then it clicked. I was like, wait a second, is that really true? No. There are a lot of people in my industry right now who are prosperous.
That is a huge part of the process, is questioning it. Like, wait a minute, is this true 100% across the board? And another thing that you can begin to do, like you are doing, is you look for evidence that the belief is not true 100% of the time. Like you're doing, like, wait a minute, some of these people are succeeding in the entertainment industry. And so you begin to look like, who are those people? What are those people doing? What is different about what they're doing? And you begin to like, really create more and more wobble in that belief system to the point where, like before I started doing hypnosis, this is more along the lines of what I do with people, is we start to question it, look for evidence of the opposite of it, but also like finding a risk. Like, what risk can you take in action to defy the belief that you are holding? Because once you have a new experience of the belief not being true, it's like that subconscious mind is like, wait a minute. I can't believe this 100% of the time because I just had an experience that is opposite of exactly what I was believing. Like, for example, if you think you have to work like a 40 to 50-hour work week to thrive, you begin to, like, what I began to do is like, can I get down to a 3-day week work week and a 4-day weekend? And before I was like, no way, I can't do that and make what I want to make. And I was like, wait a minute though, there are people who do that. There are people who maybe only work 1 day a week, or maybe they work 1 hour a week. There are all kinds of people out there earning money in different ways. And so I began to create a map, a vision of what I wanted. Oh, I want a primarily 3-day a week work week. And I was like, how am I going to do that? I don't know how I'm going to do that, but I'm going to first hold a vision that is opposite of my belief, and I'm going to start to go in that direction. And then eventually my schedule became like, I only see my clients 3 days a week. Like, that's what I do. And it's like, yeah, that's my schedule. And I have 4-day weekends as much as I want. And it's like, wow, I used to believe that was not true. So it's like, once you can begin to kind of create that wobble, start to ask a lot of questions, find evidence that it isn't necessarily true, and who's doing it differently, and what are they doing, and what could it look like? Create a vision and intention and prayer, and then you start taking action to go in that direction to defy the belief. And at some point, the subconscious mind can't believe it anymore.
So prior to the wobble, why does that version of us need to stay in that survival consciousness? Why is it so hard for us to see things differently? And why do we subconsciously choose to stay in that space?
Well, because of the way the human psyche works, like it gets comfortable, right? And so some say that it's only until either you allow yourself to feel the pain of that, or the pain gets so great, you absolutely have to change. The discomfort from whatever it is, stagnation or just survival, like the pain of that eventually is the catalyst that says, like, wait a minute, I'm not willing to do this anymore. Or we see examples of other people. So it could be, Tony Robbins talks more about like pain or pleasure, right? We're either going to hit a bottom with the pain and be like, I'm done with this. I cannot go on like this anymore. Or the pleasure of like, oh my God, that person is rocking it financially. I want more of that. And we get inspired. And so the pleasure, the desire, the vision gets activated. And it's, well, I see it's possible there. So if it's possible for them, maybe it's possible for me. And that come more from like pleasure. So it's almost, I'd say probably 100%. You're either at one place or another. You're just tired of the pain, or the pain threshold has got, because we have a high capacity to be with a lot of pain, unfortunately. And women especially, right? Like, women have a very high pain threshold. And so it's like we will allow ourselves to be in painful circumstances without changing them.
I know there's people who are listening to this right now who are stuck in a painful place. Why do our brains choose to stay stuck there?
Yeah, well, I think because a lot of times, like, if you think about evolution, we have our basic needs met for the most part. So the part of the brain that is more primal, if its basic needs are met, it is not driving us to have to find food. We don't have to go looking for food. Like the parts of the brain that were just based upon like we have to go looking for food because there's absolutely no food and we have to go hunt or gather, right? Like it's just like we have to do it versus in this day and age we do not for the most part have to do that. We just go to the grocery store like it's a we could get food for so cheap, we could get our basic needs met. And then, the pain, what we have done in our culture and other cultures around the world is like we have so many strategies to numb out that pain. 1,000 strategies. Right? Anything from very simple things like caffeine, like I really study this stuff in depth. So it's just like caffeine, sugar, food, just basic ones that were numbing, 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 numbing. Oh, I feel pain. Give me something, whatever it is. And it's so accessible that we're just numbing that pain, numbing it, numbing it, numbing it. And we're not feeling the pain that's actually there. And it's emotional pain, which is different than physical pain, right? Emotional pain is easier to use whatever to numb it. And so we use all these numbing techniques, and it just even being on social media for 10 minutes can numb the pain temporarily. It will not make it go away. But it's so accessible, so we have to look at what are we using to numb that pain, and can we in our behavior start to kind of wean ourselves off so we can feel the pain that is there, that therefore allows us to take action to change.
That'd be like for anything from, like you said, like caffeine or alcohol, even like spiritually bypassing, like
Mm.
the idea of, "Oh, I'm just going to give it all to God," like there's, and like you don't actually deal with it. You're just
Right.
sort of like numbing that, like, oh, well, something else is going to take care of me,
Yeah.
whether it is this caffeine or this cocktail or God.
Yes. 100%. Yeah, we look for that savior in God or the divine to save us from their circumstances. Now, it is an interesting area because a lot of my journey has been, leveraging the relationship with a higher power in order to get change to happen. Right? But like, maybe more effective ways can be like, I really like Tosha Silver. She has these books around change me prayers. So instead of like, give me income of like whatever, 6 figures a year, it's like change me into a person who can generate 6 figures or more a year. So I really like that kind of a prayer process as opposed to, a give me process. It's like change me into one who can manage money effectively, change me into one who can save money, invest money, earn money, grow money. Like it's like we can ask for changes to happen so that we're not just like we're taking personal responsibility, like, oh, I actually have to change versus a savior saving me from my circumstances.
What you just said, just literally, I've got goosebumps on my skin because what I just heard is, rather than waiting for the savior to come save you, you ask for the change, and when you ask for the change, you get your power back.
Exactly. And your willingness to change, to be the one, and it's kind of meeting the divine halfway. Like, I need help beyond my patterns because sometimes I don't have the resources to overcome my own belief system or patterns, but I have to show up. And so it's like my showing up is like, give me the willingness to change what I need to change here to have a new experience with money, or change me into somebody who is doing things differently. And then we take that responsibility back versus just waiting around for something to happen. It's called learned helplessness.
Yeah, it's learned helplessness. Absolutely. I could completely relate to that. Growing up in a very religious household, so much of that was give it to God rather than taking ownership of my life and my circumstances.
Yeah, definitely. It is one of there are certain contributing factors to under earning, and learned helplessness is in there. When it comes to under earning, it's like a learned helplessness. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, what do I do? I'm waiting for God to tell me what to do.
Can you walk us through what healing financial trauma actually looks like?
Part of healing from financial trauma is being able to apply a new perspective, essentially, to an experience or a story from the past. So we may go through lots of financial traumas in our life, some more significant than others. And the healing process is one of the first things I do when I start working with people is we work on the money story. So we go back to the past and we look at like what was going on in the family of origin, what was going on in childhood, how were your parents relating to money, what were they saying, what were they doing, what was happening, because part of the financial trauma that happens for people is when they're very young and things are going on with the parents. Like there might be a divorce, or there might be a parent loses a job, or, something significant happens. And then us as children, being like sponges, we're soaking it up and we're applying a story to whatever that is. Like maybe it's my fault that that happened. Oh my God, my parent lost their job because they were taking care of me. Like, oh my God, like I'm the reason. This can happen a lot. And so, what I do with people is we start to go back, and what a person can actually start to do is just write a money story. This is from like the beginning of what I remember around money when I was growing up, like my first money experience. Was that positive? Was that negative? Right? Like was going to the store and asking for something and my parent telling me like, you can't have that. We don't have enough money. Or yes, of course, you can have anything you want in this entire store. It could be, along a huge range, but we go back and we start to look at like, what is my story and what story have I like overlaid on top of that? Because there's practical circumstances of like my mom lost her job, or my parents got a divorce, or whatever these things are. And there's just objective truth. Dad lost job, mom lost job, parents got a divorce. But then we have overlaid a story on top of that. So we began to look at what is the story we are telling about our prior circumstances, even if we were older in college and got a credit card and got into debt and then couldn't get out of debt, or a lover took advantage of us. It's like, but what story are we telling about that objective circumstance? Which is just purely, I do this a lot with people and looking at numbers, a budget, for example. And it's like the budget is just numbers on a spreadsheet. But we are telling a story about all those numbers on a spreadsheet. I don't have enough, or I can't get what I want, or I'm like a victim of my circumstances. Like we tell all kinds of stories. So what I do with people is we begin to unpack the story. What story am I telling about these financial traumas? How much am I replicating of being a victim? Was I taken advantage of? And I do a lot of work with people on their resentments, because a lot of financial traumas have hand in hand resentments with the people that they happened with. Right. And so we do resentment work. So part of what I do with people is I've studied the 12 steps, and the 12 steps do like a really, really deep, incredible job of unpacking resentments. So if we look at the story we're telling about the financial trauma and that event that happened, or events, we look at the resentments we are holding and we heal those resentments, We look at the beliefs that were formed as a result of that trauma and we unravel that belief, like we've been speaking about. And then we instill a new vision and we have a prayer for healing. Do all those things, I guarantee that financial trauma is going to, if not be entirely gone, very much minimized.
So, how does hypnosis help us work through this trauma?
So what hypnosis begins to do is it begins to allow ourselves to go back in the past. So for example, like I've worked with clients and I'm remembering one specifically, and we were in a hypnosis and he was having a certain experience with his wife that kept playing out over and over and over again. And he was really distraught about this, really distraught. And he didn't know why this kept happening over and over and over again. And so I did a hypnosis session with him and we get to like the feeling of what is happening. And then we have that feeling take us back to the past. And he ended up in his kitchen and he was a little kid and his parents were like fighting and they were doing things that were very uncomfortable for him. He had no awareness of this event. It was not in his awareness. It was in the shadow. But we got back there and we processed that experience in a new way. Because a lot of what happens is we don't process experiences and they come in as a pattern and they play out over and over and over again in our lives until we process that. Like process the fear that parents were fighting about money in the kitchen when you're a little kid. Oh, we're going to process that in hypnosis. Once we can process that and then get into an adult perspective versus a childlike perspective, that adult perspective is like, oh, they just had a hard day and were fighting about money. Had nothing to do with me. And we begin to apply a new perspective, but in hypnosis. And that new perspective, because we're in hypnosis, it sticks. And what happened with this man, it was actually quite incredible. I'm still astounded by what happened for him, but it happened more for him. He healed this particular experience, and what began to happen to him is in his work, he started to get like all these opportunities. It was just like all of a sudden. And then every week when I meet with him, it'd be like, he'd come back and I was like, wow, like this opportunity came through with this opportunity. And we just did this one hypnosis session. Now, it's not like I just come in and do one hypnosis session with people. Like we're working in a process, but we targeted this hypnosis. And after that, his income really shifted. And then him and his wife are no longer in this like tension around there not being enough money because he's feeling in flow. He's feeling like opportunities are coming to him and he's empowered, he's confident, he's in his masculine. Like so much happened for him just as a result of going back and processing this experience. And then we kind of add perspective to it and then we create a new vision. And there's different kinds of hypnosis, but when we go back into the past and process something that isn't processed, because we couldn't be with it at the time. For whatever reason, it was too intense emotionally, or we're too young, or there wasn't time to process it. This happens a lot to people. There's not time to process the experience, and then it's just playing out in our life over and over and over again. So hypnosis is very effective at processing the past.
Okay, Seekers, I think this is a really great place to take a break. We'll be right back with the episode. Every successful business needs that aha moment, the spark where your passion meets your purpose and your vision connects with the people who need it most. At the Magician's Vision, a branch of Three of Cups, we believe that moment begins with intuition. It's not just a feeling, it's your most powerful business tool. In tarot, the magician represents power, inspired action, and the deep knowing that everything you need is already within reach. Wands for passion, pentacles for abundance, swords for communication, cups for creativity. Together they form the foundation of powerful, soul-aligned business strategies. As part of Three of Cups, the Magician's Vision is here to help bring your vision to life. using the power of intuition, the magic of creativity, and the wisdom of experience to build meaningful connections with your community and grow your business with heart. Your vision, your magic. Let's make it real and fill your cup at threeofcupshealing.com. And now, back to the episode. Let's talk about your money wisdom system. Can you give us an overview of your three pillars? We have money psychology, money management, and money growth.
So money psychology is a lot of what we've been talking about here today. The money psychology is looking at our beliefs, our behaviors, our patterns, the money shadow. It is really kind of unpacking this territory so that we can begin to have a new money psychology that is operating from a healthy place. Because if we do the other work, like money management or money growth, before looking at money psychology, those beliefs that we're packing around in our little backpack, they don't go away. So what would happen when I was working with people is I was going in and teaching them money management skills, and they couldn't stick to them because of their beliefs and their patterns and behaviors were not aligned with that new kind of budget or way of operating with money. And so they'd revert back. And I'd be like, oh my God, we just did all this work on money management and they're back to where they were before. And so I began to really prioritize and start with money psychology. No, we have to kind of work at this first. Then we go into money management, which is budgeting and cash flow and having a tracking system and having goals and knowing a saving strategy and a get out of debt strategy. And so all the financial literacy and all the personal finance and business finance like strategies come in that money management section. So I work with a lot of couples, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and that can include like a business money strategy or couples money strategy. Because doing it by yourself versus like when you're in a partnership, these are different kind of strategies. So that money management is all the practicalities. For some people, it can feel very mundane or boring or, it's really, really practical.
Fear comes up for me. Like when I think about doing my taxes, it makes me afraid.
So there's probably things that you believe about taxes, paying taxes, where the money goes. Like I guarantee there's something in there that you're like, I don't want to deal with it. It's packed with the money psychology. Taxes are really, really rich area. I work a lot with people on. And I remember working with this woman. She maybe had not filed her taxes for maybe like 3, 4, 5 years. And she was afraid she was going to owe a lot of money. Now, I'm not saying if you do this, you're just not going to owe any money, but it came out that once we were able to work through that money psychology and the fears and all the doubts and the worries, she was able to do the taxes. She actually got money back. And it was like, we're afraid we're not going to have enough money. They're going to take all of her money. And she got money back. And it really blew her belief system. I mean, we'd already been unpacking it. But once she had that experience, she's like, oh my God, I've been waiting years. And I got money back. So it's really powerful, when you really unpack, like, why am I not doing something in the money management area? There's a reason I'm not doing it. And why is it? That's going to point you right to like a belief or a pattern that needs to be resolved. So then, once we can kind of like get some traction with the money psychology, get some practical things in place, we go to the money growth area. Because once you learn how to, manage a spending plan and your cash flow and do savings and do debt, it's like, okay, now what happens if we grow the money, if we grow the income? And so I use a lot of the earning power kind of techniques and strategies in order to help people boost their earning power in the money growth area. That also includes a lot of like manifestation techniques and law of attraction. And it really is very comprehensive in that money growth area because I work with a lot of entrepreneurs to kind of like up level their income, up level not just their income, but their profitability. And how do you do that when you feel like I'm at a plateau? I can't go any further. I can't go any higher. And that is like so fun because we've already laid the groundwork through the money psychology and the money management. We've gotten some like stabilization and some like foundation. And then we can go like, how do we expand it all? And it's really fun.
Yeah. You said working with the shadow side of money can be exciting with the right perspective. So is this the right perspective that you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, anytime you change a belief system, in my experience, when you really change it, like a core belief, it is quite a magical kind of experience because when it is changed, it's almost like you have put on different pair of glasses. Let's say you've got yellow glasses on and all of a sudden you put on these pink glasses and everything is like, whoa, like things are clearer. I hear clearer. I see clearer. Like you can't go back to the yellow glasses anymore. And so everything is just like, whoa, it's like new. Like things you've never seen before are all of a sudden before you. That's when you really change the core belief. And you know you have this like, wow, there's so much more possible to life than I ever imagined. It's that kind of a feeling. And to me, there's nothing better than that. That feeling of like, oh my God, I was sitting with these like blinders on and I didn't even know it. And now that I have, expanded those blinders, because we all have some level of blinders going on, but when we expand them, it's like, oh my God, like I see so much more. And then we're able to kind of take advantage of that. That's exciting.
You use the term practical money magic. What does that mean to you, and how can we tap into that magic for ourselves?
So, practical magic, like one of the things that I noticed when I was becoming a financial coach is that I was very good when I was in the corporate world at learning these practical strategies, but they had no like heart and soul to them to me. And so part of the reason I was having a hard time on my own personal finances is because I felt it was all practicality and no magic. And so I began to find like, well, how do I add the magic in? Because that's who I am as a person. I kind of need that magic to feel inspired. Because just doing it from a practical, kind of more old school approach, like it was too dry and boring and just like laborious and heavy. And, it just was not fun whatsoever. So I began to learn, like, how can I add the magic in one for myself? So the magic could be very simple. Like I remember I used to get like colored pens and pencils and I'd write out my intentions and I'd do it on this big like map of a board and I'd write out in all these different colors like my intentions and my prayers around money. And I would do these elaborate things. I'd bring like little pictures onto the board and I just would make it as creative as possible. And so when I look at this board, I'd be like, huh, that's like magic, like it's beautiful and it's all colorful. And so I wanted to read it and I wanted to look at it. And what began to happen with this board that I had when my intentions with money is that I'd read it and then I'd have these experiences. These things would actually come true that I would write down and pray about it and be like, whoa, okay, like it was the manifestation process, right? And so I'd be in this place of vision, intention, kind of prayer and experience. And it'd be like, whoa, okay, like something is happening there. And I would have all of these like visions kept coming true. And so I began to kind of understand like what am I doing exactly and how do I replicate it and how do I teach other people how to do it? And so that's a lot of what my kind of priestess side of things is using like divination tools like astrology and tarot and prayer and using these things that cultivate the magical side of our relationship. Really, it's relationship with like abundance. I work with archetypes and the goddess archetypes of like a Lakshmi, the goddess of abundance, or an Aphrodite. Have them like teach me about like how can I relate to prosperity in a completely different way. And by doing that, it started to add a lot of magic in. Based upon this high priestess ordination and training I went through, I learned how to work with these various archetypes, and these archetypes would come to me in these experiences, and it'd be like, whoa, okay, like something's happening there. And so I'd record it and I'd experiment with it and I'd see what kind of results I got, and then I'd refine it, and then I'd apply it, and then I'd teach it. And seeing my clients, like seeing their journeys and their expansion with money. We're not just using magical tools, and we're not just using practical tools. And based upon the person, some people might be more heavily weighted on the practical side. Some people might be more heavily weighted on the magical, but we're always including both because the practical is very like earth-based, tangible, practical, like on the ground. The magical is the heavens, right? And so we're kind of blending like heaven with earth, like the mystical, the magical. Like, how do we get things to happen when we don't know how they're going to happen? How do we get movement in our life in a way where we haven't been able to break out of our own patterns? Then we go to the magical. We get some movement with that magical, and then it's just like, wow, it can be this magical. Like, what else is possible?
Yeah, because I know a lot of us struggle in the how. Like, how do we get things to happen when we don't know how they're going to happen? How are things going to work out for us? How am I going to manifest this life that I want? And so infusing magic into the practical makes it so that we don't have to worry so much about the how, right?
Definitely, because we should not know the how. If we're setting an expanded vision or goal for ourselves, we should not know the how. And sometimes that can be just like a really wild process of like being in the unknown. Like, I'm trying to sell my house right now, but I'm in a market where there's just been tons and tons and tons of building of new houses. And I have a really nice house, but it's been on the market a couple months, and I'm like, how the hell is this going to happen? I have no control over it happening, really. And so I get to use all my manifestation kind of like experiments and like, what if I try this? And what if I try that? And it makes it all a magical process. And then I'm not in this place of like, how am I going to make this happen? It's like, I can't like make it happen when you're coming to processes like this. It's like some things you just can't make happen. And so you have to like engage, engage, engage. And it's not to say that you don't take action, but you're waiting for that like intuition, that clarity, that like response, like, oh, do this, oh, do that. And so it is how to make money. Like if you're trying to up level your income, for example, you're not necessarily going to know how. I mean, you might even see like, well, this person does it this way and that person does it that way, but that isn't necessarily even your way. You may not even be able to do that no matter how hard you tried. But you can engage with the magical side, which is like, well, what does it look like once you've increased your income? What does it feel like? You can do these processes that will move things for you. But you're still engaged, you're not just like waiting for the savior like we talked about. We're engaged in like prompting creation to help us. Faith without action is fantasy.
Faith without action is fantasy. You're right. Wow. Okay. So if someone is listening today and feels totally stuck, totally ashamed, confused about their finances, what would you tell them right now?
I would say probably step one would be clarifying what is the vision. So if you're stuck in a particular place, like let's say you're stuck and you don't have enough money. Well, first thing you want to do is clarify, what do you want things to look like? What does it look like to have enough money? How much is enough money? So you begin to kind of like leverage the platform of what you're currently experiencing and saying like, well, what is one rung up from there? Doesn't even have to be like, well, I'm a multimillionaire all of a sudden and I have no money right now. Right? It's like, well, what if I'm making $5,000 a month? Okay. And what does life look like if I'm making $5,000 a month? And how is it different from what I am currently experiencing? So we create a vision. What is the vision? Just one rung up from where you're at. That's the easiest way because when we go too far out, like we just said, it's like fantasy. A lot of the times, what happens with people, fantasy. So we want to get clear, what does it look like? Write about it, imagine it in the mind. One simple technique is like 5 minutes right before going to sleep. Set a timer, just imagining what does one rung up from where I'm at look like in an improved way. How does it make me feel? And doing this right before you go to sleep puts the subconscious mind to work like, oh, this is what we're doing. We're not just surviving, we're one rung up from there. And so that's like step one. Two is you can, if you believe in the power of prayer, it's like the change me prayers are really, really accessible. Change me into somebody who can experience this vision I just created. Change me into somebody who can earn $5,000 a month, right? So we're asking creation to change us. Thirdly, we begin to do maybe the money psychology, some of that work is just writing out the money story. What is the money story? What are the major things around money that have happened to you in your lifetime? What are the major events? And allowing yourself to apply new perspective. What could be new perspectives on those events outside of my old ideas or beliefs about them? Those are three, yeah, 3 to 4 kind of things that you can do now that are very accessible.
Super powerful. Are you willing to take us through a money hypnosis?
Yes, I love it.
Is there anything that you think people need to know before trying a hypnosis session like this one? Is there something that how they should prepare for it?
I would say one, knowing that all hypnosis is said to be self-hypnosis. So self-hypnosis means that whatever I'm saying or offering or inviting you to visualize or think about or take into the subconscious mind, you have control over it, right? So one, you don't want to do this while you're driving. That's very important. Two, it's best if you turn off all ringers or alarms. And three, knowing that anything that I say that does not resonate, you can change it in your own mind. I'm not going to tell you anything or program you in a way that is not resonant with you because you have the power to either take it in or not take it in. So it's an invitation or like I'm in a car with you and you are driving and I've got a map and I might be like turn here, turn there. But you might feel like I don't want to turn there. And that's like great. Okay, you don't have to turn there. Like you make up whatever you want in your own mind because it's programming of your own mind. I'm just a guide sitting next to you, like, okay, there's an invitation to do this, an invitation to do that. You can say yes, you can say no. You are 100% in control. Yeah, so that's really important to know because stage hypnosis kind of can create a little bit of a bad rap for hypnosis. And that's not what this is.
And do people need to wear headphones or does it not matter?
It's helpful to have headphones for sure, but not necessary. I'd say preferring to not lay down because laying down sometimes you can fall asleep and you can still take information in, but it's much better if you're aware of what's happening while you're in hypnosis. So I like to kind of at least be propped up, if not sitting up where you're like more aware of what's happening or not going to fall asleep. Okay, so closing your eyes if you feel ready, if you feel comfortable, if you feel safe. If not, you can do this always with eyes open. But when you close the eyes down, you can take in a really nice, deep breath. Already beginning to relax both your mind and your body. You begin to realize now that your eyes just feel so wonderfully, deeply relaxed. So deeply relaxed that it sends waves of relaxation all the way through every muscle, fiber, and nerve in the body. And I invite you to imagine a beautiful color that represents feeling safe forming at the top of the head. This may be a color you love or some other color, but it creates the feeling of safety. And beginning to see that color at the top of the head, entering the top of the head. And it begins to relax the top of the head. Seeing that beautiful color making you feel oh so safe, relaxing your forehead, smoothing out any creases. Seeing that colored light relaxing the tiny muscles next to the eyes, relaxing the jaw, where you're able to let it hang loose and slack. Seeing that colored light on your shoulders, moving down the arms, all the way to the fingertips. Seeing that beautiful colored light relaxing your torso and your chest, where you can breathe even easier. That's right. Seeing that beautiful colored light relaxing your legs, all the way down to the bottoms of the feet, where that beautiful colored light of safety flows in through the top of the head, all the way through the body and out the bottoms of the feet, down, down, down to the center of the earth. That's right. That colored light is relaxing every cell in the body. It's relaxing the nervous system because you feel safe and calm. And it's oh so relaxing. And then beginning to imagine now a beautiful ball of light forming right in front of your heart. The most beautiful ball of light you have ever seen. It may be the same color, it may be multiple colors, or it might be pure white light. But just looking at this ball of light, you notice it helping you feel even safer and more secure. Repeating to yourself, I am safe. I am secure. I am taken care of. That's right. And when I count down from 3 to 1 and snap my fingers, you will see your 80-year-old elder self right before you, as clear as day, or even just get a very strong sense of them, where you will be able to see every detail of this future self of yours. Beginning to count down now. 3, preparing for positive surprises. 2, becoming willing to see your 80-year-old elder self. And 1, right there before you, your 80-year-old self. And taking them into your awareness, noticing their demeanor, their posture, their clothing, maybe their facial expression or wisdom lines. And I want you to take a moment to look into their eyes, looking into the eyes of the 80-year-old elder self right before you. And in those eyes, seeing the depth and breadth of experience this 80-year-old self has gone through in this life. We're going to have your 80-year-old self share some of its wisdom about your finances and your financial potential. We're going to provide the 80-year-old self with a chalkboard as a tool for communicating with great clarity and seeing that chalkboard next to the 80-year-old self. We're going to ask the 80-year-old self regarding the most difficult money experience we've ever had, and to present it as a picture on the chalkboard where it gets clearer and clearer and clearer. A difficult money experience we've had in the past. Like we are there with the experience, but as an observer. Observing the details of that experience. You might hear whatever's going on around that experience. There might be a certain kind of smell associated with it, a certain kind of taste in the mouth. We're going to call on the 80-year-old self. You're going to repeat after me in your own mind, telling the 80-year-old self, please heal my perspective on this past experience with money. And infuse it with your wisdom and compassion. That's right. And I want you to allow this to happen now. And this perspective shift may happen right now in this moment. It may come later today. It may come tonight or later this week. But we cultivate trust that healing is happening right here, right now. You might even see this event on the chalkboard enshrouded with a luminescent light, the color of the light of safety, or like that ball of light in front of your heart. But you're going to infuse the circumstance with light. As the 80-year-old self infuses your mind with a new perspective on it, a positive perspective, a healed perspective, healing the past, bringing wisdom and love, bringing care to the situation so you can gain the most insight from it. And as that healing takes place, just putting that good feeling, the new perspective, if it's there for you right now, into that ball of light in front of your heart. Knowing that if the perspective shift hasn't come yet, it will come. trusting that perspective is happening. And I'm going to have you take an eraser and erasing that chalkboard now, where it comes back to a clear blank state. Next, I will have you repeat after me to yourself once again, communicating with your 80-year-old self. Going to have you ask, show me the future outcome of one money habit I need to improve. Show me the future outcome of one money habit I need to improve. Asking the 80-year-old self to show you the future, the outcome of a particular money habit that needs to be improved upon. It may show you with words on the chalkboard of this future outcome. It may show you in an image or even like a short movie. Or you might just get a sense of what that future outcome is if you continue this one money habit that needs to improve, how that is going to impact your 80-year-old self. But regardless, it becomes evidently clear this future outcome is a result of this current money habit that needs to change. And we see this again as an observer, no judgment, but only compassion and love. Allowing yourself to take this in all the way into your psychology. And allow yourself to feel any and all feelings that may go along with whatever you are seeing this outcome. It might be stagnation, might be nothing changes. Or it might be things that really you don't necessarily want to have to go through or put your 80-year-old self through. Knowing you are safe and this 80-year-old self has massive wisdom. It deeply loves you and wants the absolute best for you. And it calms your nervous system to know you have support to improve this one money habit. I'll give you a moment to process that, seeing the impact and the outcome of this one money habit. And by changing this one thing, so much can improve. That's right. And next, I'm going to have you erase that chalkboard once more, where it goes back to a clean slate. And lastly, we're going to ask your 80-year-old self what one positive change you can make with money that will make the most difference to this 80-year-old self, where they will look back and be so grateful to you you made the change. It might be having a spending plan or asking for a raise. It might be opening a savings account. It might be putting micro amounts into a retirement account or something else entirely. But I want you to ask your 80-year-old self now, what is one positive change I can make with money that will make the most difference to you? And allowing that to be revealed to you now. Again, it might be words, it might be a picture on that chalkboard, it might be a feeling, but it's one thing specifically that you can improve with money. One small thing, one significant thing. It really doesn't matter. Just one thing that will make a difference to this 80-year-old self. And I want you to envision yourself making that change now. seeing yourself taking that action or just feeling good, the goodness that comes from making the change, seeing yourself going through the behavior of the change and feeling all the good feelings that go along with making positive change. And I want you to amplify that feeling. It might be feeling proud, it might be feeling accomplished, it might be just feeling confident or resilient. And allowing this feeling to expand throughout your whole body, your whole nervous system. And again, you can put this feeling into that ball of light in front of your heart, into that beautiful, beautiful ball of light. It may shift the color of the ball of light by putting this intense, good feeling into it. How good it feels to make change with money. And then I want you to bring that ball of light into your own heart, taking in all of these good feelings, all of this healing, all of the positive change right into your own heart. And imagining this bright, bright future that is before you because of this one change you are making, because of the healing that is happening and the perspective shift. Imagining this abundant future filled with all the amazing things in life you want now. When I count down from 3 to 1, the 80-year-old self will step right back into you, taking everything with her, all of her wisdom, all of her perspective, all of her healing back into your own body. 3, preparing to receive that wise elder. 2, making space for them to come back in. And 1, allowing the 80-year-old self to step back into the body, taking this deep, deep wisdom of an entire life worth of experience back into you and your own wisdom. And from this day forward, you'll be able to trust in your own money abilities to build and sustain wealth, to find creative solutions to financial challenges with ease, to make empowered, confident decisions that lead to prosperity, and know that your wealth is a force for good, and it amplifies your values and your impact in this world. And no matter what happens in the world around you, you remain steady, resourced, and resilient. And now that you are infused with the behaviors to increase financial abundance in your life, I will begin to count you back up. 0, closing the door to the subconscious mind, locking in all the goodness here for you to remember clearly and carry out easily and effortlessly. 1, feeling inspired and motivated. 2, excited for all the upcoming changes you get to make with money. 3, feeling ready for that perspective shift. 4, feeling absolutely great. 5, feeling your fingers and your toes coming all the way back into your body and opening your eyes as you are ready. Welcome back.
I'm so emotional right now.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's a really good sign.
Joetta, thank you for the work that you do and for the lives that you change, your vision, your internal beauty. I literally cannot say enough amazing things about you. Like Really amazing.
I really appreciate that. Yeah, it's an honor to be here and offer this to you and to like whoever is out there who is ready to receive this level of transformation, to activate more abundance and wealth and healing. It's really incredible. And, I think that hypnosis can be done once or it can be done multiple times. I always encourage regular self hypnosis because imagine you just do this once, but if you do it 5 times, 10 times, like the level that is available to us for transformation and change through just listening to something over and over again is so incredible. And the people who do a practice like this on a regular basis, it's like exponential healing happens. So I highly encourage that. I do have a really awesome hypnosis tool on my website if people want to check that out. It's called my free money tool to shift your subconscious mind. And it's similar but different. But you do the practice for 30 days and it will totally shift your subconscious wiring around what's possible for you financially. So I highly encourage that at priestessoffinance.com.
Where can people find you if you want to be found?
All the social media channels, of course, Priestess of Finance. My website, priestessoffinance.com. My email, joetta@priestessoffinance.com. And if anybody wants to share their experience of the hypnosis, I love to hear about what happens for people.
Well, this has been amazing. Do you feel complete?
Yeah, it's been a pleasure and an honor to be with you. And thanks so much for the invitation.
Wow, I cannot tell you how much that conversation with Joetta just shifted me, and the hypnosis. Oh my goodness. My 80-year-old self. So the perspective shift she wanted me to see was that I don't have to be afraid, that I am safe no matter what, and that I am loved completely no matter what. And she wanted me to shift my perspective so that I could see that financial hardship was present in my life so that I could get past the fear, so that I could take the power away from scarcity and realize that everything just comes from within me. I have the power. I have the power. There's nothing outside of me that is a threat to me. So I'm so curious to know what your perspective shift was. And I know that sharing our stories can help other people expand. So if you feel open to it, I'd love for you to leave a comment and just share what you experienced in that hypnosis. What perspective shift did you have? So next week, we're going to start the energetic portion of this theme with Janelle Pierre, who's a money confidence coach who believes that your inner self-worth is the key to unlocking outer wealth. I am so excited for that episode. I literally have butterflies in my stomach. Until then, hang in there, seekers.